From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, the ultimate adventure, life itself. I think I'm still here. I'm Ken Napzok.
And I am here, and I'm Jen Landa.
There we go. I like when you use the Jen Landa, much like I use the Ken. Because you know,
yeah.
Jennifer Landa flows well. Kenneth Napzok doesn't flow too well, unless you're my mom. That's what she's still might use.
Ken and Jen.
Ken and Jen.
I like it.
Ken and Jen in the morning here. We are looking at Star Wars news, as we like to do. We call it breaking news from a long time ago. This is kind of this week's episode is the release date shuffle, the future of Star Wars films. We'll talk pretty much about one story throughout this entire episode, but it's interesting, and we're just gonna go off the path and just have some free-forward conversation here about the news. Before we do all that, as always, we'd like to remind you that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We have been recommending for a few weeks here, and I was going to change it, and then no, I watched Alex Damon's questions, frequently asked questions about The Last Jedi, and he mentioned this book in it, and I was like, no, I still going to recommend Bloodline by Claudia Gray, a great political thriller, and the big reveal of Leia, the daughter of Vader. Download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. We are doing good. I forgot to check the numbers before we got it here, but Jen, we've got an ask about Patreon.
That's right. We had been asking for a goal of 415. That goal has been met. We have locked in a private live stream, TBD on that, for when Joseph comes back from filming his movie. But now we have a new ask, and that is to reach 420 patrons on Patreon. Patreon really keeps this sail barge going. We are so grateful to our patrons in this crazy social media day and age. There's a lot of fun things that we do for patrons only, including our Discord, which is popping. Breaking news, memes, all sorts of great discussion on there. So that's what I got.
Check it out. Yeah, I'm looking now. We're at 413 paid, but like I said, the 415 paid is locked in. We hit it, and you did it. We're going to do that exclusive private live stream. But the goal 420, like Jen said, and then that Discord's popping, and we always have our exclusive series, Will of the Force, on Patreon. It's been on a little impromptu hiatus with Joseph being tied up. Jen and I just not as free to do a ton of recordings this month as we'd like to, because I don't know if you heard, Jen, the year's ending soon and holidays are approaching and it's getting a little busy.
Yeah. I'm just envisioning myself running around the mall trying to find some last minute gifts.
Oh, I just got to shiver.
I know, I'm sorry.
At least I don't have to sleep on my office floor on a Black Friday workday anymore, though I think it's a little less. Anyways, that's an other center conversation. Black Friday and the mania behind capitalism. Anyways, we're going to dive into Star Wars news. You ready to dive? I don't have anything in my life to share right now. It's just been a busy, fun time, having a lot of fun on Blue Sky. Join us over there. Join ForceCenter. Join me. Join Jen and Joseph as well. But that's my life update. Cool. Hanging in there.
We are living. We are surviving, sliving. Is that what Paris Hilton says? I don't know. But we're here.
Yeah,
we're ready to talk about Star Wars because I got no life adventures.
No, I got none. I've been eating really, really bad. That's the only thing. I've just been. On election night, I started. Maybe this ice cream will help, and I haven't stopped for 2 weeks. So here we are. Let's get into some Star Wars news. This past week, the big story was what we're calling a movie release date shuffle of sorts, though we haven't seen where the a new release date will land. But here are the facts, Jen. Now, this originally came, I don't know if it was exclusive, but The Wrap, Umberto Gonzalez over there, Variety, all the other legacy trades picked it up, and that's and it's a fact because Disney announced it. We should point out this isn't a scoop. This isn't a like the Simon Kinberg thing, which might have been a scoopy, leaky kind of thing that met the the movie press machine. Disney has announced. These are the facts, Jen. I'm trying to do it like a news segment here. Here's the facts. Disney had December 18th, 2026 as a release date set for a feature film in the future. The speculation was it was the so-called Rey film, the new Jedi Order film, the Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy directed, the Daisy Ridley-led film. That was based on, I didn't pull the exact quote or comment, but there was at some point, Sharmeen said, the next film. But that was prior to the announcement of The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is the next film there. So the company, Disney being the company, removed the untitled Star Wars movie from that date in December of 2026 and replaced it with Ice Age 6. So, Jen, your dreams have come true.
I kind of laughed. I literally laughed when I read that the first time. I'm like, oh, there's a sixth one?
Yes, we're going.
My kids like it. It's entertaining. In fact, my 5-year-old got a Halloween Ice Age toy from McDonald's. They were like passing out old McDonald's toys, still in the wrapping on Halloween. And so we have these Ice Age toys. From which one? I don't know. They could be from the 5th one for all I know.
Ice Age 3. Ice Age 4, is that the one where they went to space? Who knows? We'll see. So that is that. So Ice Age 6, December 18th, 2026. Countdown. Welcome to Ice Age Center. The Mandalorian and Grogu still remains on the schedule for May 22nd, 2026. So no thoughts of it moving to December. It's going to be there in that May, which is a classic Star Wars release date and time frame. But of course, they'll have a big MCU film around that as well. None of the officially announced Star Wars film projects have been canceled. I think that's one of the facts to get to right now, at least publicly. Who knows internally, but publicly, none of this means a Star Wars film has been canceled. We know, and we'll get into some of the track record there with Disney Lucasfilm on this stuff here. The speculation, Jen, though never officially confirmed, it was believed, like I said, the Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy directed project based around Rey Skywalker and the new Jedi Order was slated for that spot. And there has been, as we'll get to more in the second half of this episode, there's been a string of news that would lead us to think that this film is very much in play, the, quote, Rey film, but that it could change dramatically or it could lead to something more. So we'll talk about that. But, Jen, I wanted to talk here about this, the news story itself. We've been honest. I'm going to try not to be grumpy at all today. I don't want to take anyone's story. What is your first reaction to just hearing this news story?
Thank goodness, because when we discussed, remember when a few weeks ago, when Joseph was here, we discussed about the release dates of all the upcoming Star Wars films. And I was like, wait, there's going to be 2 Star Wars films in 1 year? We're going from none to 2 when we knew that they wanted to back off from releases. So that was really surprising to me. And the fact that they were holding firm on that, or there had not been any sort of discussion, I was like, I don't know about that. I think that they're going to kind of shooting themselves in the foot. So I'm glad. Take it off the board. That way, all the energy and the hype goes to Mando and Grogu. It's going to help it because it's going to need a little bit of help just because of the other competition at the box office with a similar audience, right? I think it's good. I'm not going to freak out.
I'm glad you went that direction. I'm really glad you went that direction. I think actually that is kind of a good point. And we still have, and I was typing as you were talking too, we still have, I think, the 2027 release date. I actually kind of agree with what you're saying in the sense of I'm not opposed to 2 Star Wars films a year. But I think that December date was put on the board before the Mandalorian and Grogu news, I think. Someone might correct me. I'm sure they will. And that kind of changed the game for me a little bit. And again, I'm not opposed to 2 a year. I don't think it could even down the line, it could work out. And clearly Marvel's done that to great success in the past, but that's a different animal, different beast that they've been building over on that side. So I actually will take it a little bit of good news. It's also good news in the sense of we always do the, hey, I just want them to get it right kind of line of dialogue as Star Wars fans, where if that's what's going on, and I, for one, and I think we've talked about it ad nauseum here and even other places. The movie release date game has been in place for 10 plus years or so. I mean, it's been in place forever, but it just became part of the movie news cycle that you and I and Joseph have been swimming in for the last 10 years or so. And I've always felt that's a business calendar. It's fun to build hype. It's fun to it's part of the announcement of the story. This is coming and it will be released here. Totally get it. Not taking away that joy. But I kind of roll my eyes. That's why I asked this question of I I just kind of roll my eyes at here we go, panic over a business calendar. And it's big and it affects things, don't get me wrong, but they're shuffling the decks. It's not abnormal, and I don't think I'm worried yet. I have a little bit, we'll talk the second half, a little bit of worry of some of the things changing around this film, or when I say this film, the Ray film. But again, not confirmed from the spot. This is just a shuffle of the deck. I don't want that. I don't want to bring my malaise too into it. I'm glad you went a little positive.
Which film is coming out in 27? Have they made any announcement?
None of them have been confirmed. It was just the dates
wow.
itself. And even the thought was, again, I'm going on thought, not versus what I can remember from every article. But the thought was, hey, Ray film first, then maybe the Mangold film, and then maybe Filoni's film in 2029, because they're still building that verse that we sometimes call it the Mando verse, whatever you want to call it. We call it the Filoni verse now, the Thrawn verse. Who knows? But that's all just speculation that often becomes not fact, but just so ingrained in our conversations that you just think that's the truth, but not necessarily the case.
That is interesting that they're leading with Mando and Grogu. I mean, they've had, I think, good success, obviously, in the TV side, which I think this article mentioned that.
Yeah.
In terms of the films, though, I don't know what their game plan is. I feel like they're trying to figure out their game plan of what's going to work. And the problem is that the industry in general is in flux. I mean, like, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what audiences want. I've had that from friends who are in the industry who are like, we don't know. We don't know. So I think that they're trying to figure out their vision going forward, which we're going to talk a little bit about later.
Yeah.
And so could it be the Ray? I mean, it would make sense if it's the Ray movie in 27.
We'll get into the sorry, I cut you off, but we'll get into the details of some of the stuff here in the second half, Steve and I, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think at this point, I just want them to get it right is kind of a pat stat answer, but in this case, it works. I think the frustration is kind of what you're talking about, and there's some frustration in it for me as a longtime Star Wars fan of the here we go again kind of vibe. It's hard to escape. Even the Variety article, which I think was the one written by Boris Kitt. Let me just double check on that. And Boris has been around a bit. It had a level of snark to it. No, the Variety one was Casey Stephan. I think the Hollywood Reporter, it was Boris Kitt. He had one up there as well.
Yes.
There was a little bit of snark to it. And as much as I'd like to put a shield up and defend Lucasfilm or even Kathleen Kennedy, you can't argue it. It's from the outside looking in, whether or not we like some of the decisions or not. This has been a refrain that we hear over and over again. But to your point of them trying to figure it out, I don't mind them trying to figure it out again. At Comic-Con, one friend of mine on the inside was like, someone said, is Disney Lucasfilm announcing anything? And he just went, they don't know what they're doing over there right now. And it came from a place of knowledge that I can't ignore,
Sure.
So
sure.
This kind of stuff frustrates me a little bit of that. It just adds to the narrative that I don't want to ever fight a narrative that's true. I just don't like when that dominates over the stories themselves.
And it's difficult because I look at what has happened where, like we can say, oh, this is a business decision. This has been going on for years where the different studios are like, oh, I'm going to take this slot. You're going to do that. Okay, right. It's strategic. However, I think there's a problem when things are announced, AKA Patty Jenkins with the Rogue Squadron. And they're like, nope, not happening. Or with the Kenobi series where they literally had a date announced and then they're like, oh no, actually we're moving that. I feel like I don't want to say it builds like mistrust, but it does have an appearance that maybe things are a little chaotic. But that's just movie business. Movie business is chaotic. It's
movie business, and it fuels some negative narratives from folks that I think are profiting off that, to be clear. But it also again is from the outside looking in. It does look bad, and this sometimes you see this in other forms of entertainment or companies or what's going. I'll even have that sometimes at comedy clubs. Like, what's going on over there? They haven't fixed that couch for 4 weeks. It's rickety. We almost fall. Something's going on. Like you don't know what's going on the inside. So why I'm not worried about the existence of this project, the Ray film being that project. That's almost what I almost want to talk about the news, Jed, more than the news. I want to talk about the story itself of like, Yeah, you hear it again, and it is 3PO saying, "Here we go again." And it's frustrating. And I was the follow up of this section here, and we'll get into some fun speculation in the second half of the show today. But I'm sometimes affected by these stories, but as Star Wars pundits, this is part of what we're in and part of what we do. We have to talk about it. We can't ignore it. I don't think you should ignore it by any sense of the word. I just think news stories are spun up into headline grabbing videos. But as a fan, we are fans first. Does this affect you still now, or how does it affect you all? Or like you said, you took a positive spin on it earlier.
I start to panic. I start to panic a little bit. I'm like, oh, because I tend to have a little bit of catastrophic thinking. I will admit that. I've been told
Just in
that a few
life.
times in my life, right? So I have to like bring myself down and remember like what is this day and age that we are living in? Because many years ago, I worked at CBS and I would get the trades for my bosses.
Right.
And in the the hardcover, not hardcover, but the paper trades like Variety and Hollywood Reporter and all those stuff. And you would see these blurbs, right? Like
Yeah.
Ray movie moved or like so and so off the film, and it'd be like in the middle, and maybe people in the office would be talking about it, but the average person would not know about it, would not care. It was like that was kind of seen as like too inside. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
Now everyone cares, and now these reporters, they have a job to do, and they have to get clicks on their website, and people want to know. People have an interest as part of like being a fan nowadays is knowing the behind the scenes stuff and who's on what and when is this going to be released. Very, very different. So I just remind myself, like back in the day, this would really be nothing. Right now, it's only something because there's just a lot more eyes and it's on social media and it's easy for everyone to see. But maybe I should not be privy to this knowledge. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe I don't need to know. It's okay.
It's a cottage industry, this movie news world and TV and pop culture discussion that I'm happy we're because we are in it. Don't anyone get it twisted. We are in it and have been in it. I first started producing Schmoes in 2012. That's crazy times. And, Collider, Screen Junkies, working all this stuff. Yeah, I've had a career off this stuff. And for a while it was fun. But my old pal Nick Mundy used to warn me, he's like, turning the discussion of art into sports talk radio, it can be destructive. And I think this is part of it. But I don't want to ever wag my finger or tell anyone not to get joy out of it. It's part of it, and if you're actively interested in it, I think it can be fun. Plus, a lot of people out there are just interested in the movie business, want to get into the movie business and the development slate. It's a brace for impact type of thing. But again, I don't want to. Also, don't want to be toxic, positive to myself on. No, everything's great over there. Yeah, I think there's been some confusion. I think there's been in Lucasfilm, Disney, and those two companies have to. Lucasfilm works for Disney, but it's not simpatico. Like it's never been simpatico. Some of the choices in hot flashy directors wasn't necessarily the choice of one person. It was the choice of someone in a cardigan, and that kind of stuff is tough. And this was a homespun family business that made billions that was purchased by a bigger company. And I think sometimes that plays out, and the answering to the investors. Don't get me started on the current economic system that crushes us all, that is just answering to shareholders, often in many industries, and it can be destructive. And I think that's part of this. But you're right. In the past, it was always present, and you could tell it. You could say this is a joke, but like if we were doing a podcast when they announced that Revenge of the Jedi was now called Return of the Jedi.
Oh my goodness!
What are they doing over there? They don't even know the story they're telling. It would have been probably some of the headlines.
Yes,
maybe. I don't know.
Exactly. No, and I love that we get to talk about this and that we are getting this knowledge. I think I start to scare myself. And I think the only reason maybe why people are getting a little worried is because there have been, I don't want to say misses, because they're still making tons of money, but the Acolyte, obviously there was drama around that. Solo, as we know, didn't perform as well as they had hoped, even though we love Solo and I think it did pretty well. It's kind of felt a little disjointed. Like as somebody, I think that one article many weeks ago was like, Star Wars should be an instant hit. It's like gold. And when it's not, people want to understand what is happening. So if you're trying to understand what is happening, then you're going to point to this type of news shuffling
Yeah.
of, movies being shuffled or the drama behind the scenes and be like, oh, this is why it's not working. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think it's a problem within the fan base of expectations, and you have two different fan bases within this large fandom.
Yeah.
Some people want only original trilogy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Other people want new stories.
So
how do you bring those together?
Yeah, and it's like sometimes we're fighting amongst each other about new stories we want or the debate. That's part of, and we've expressed it. The last year and a half has been a bit of a struggle for me with Star Wars fandoms, and I have admitted that. But I'm tremendously excited for Skeleton Crew. Tremendously excited for Andor season 2, especially in this political climate now. I think we might need that show. But it's so funny you're talking about it. Yes, I have that feeling too. That anytime Star Wars shows up, it's got to be the biggest hit in the world, right? It's got to be, without a doubt. And a lot of that might be contrasted compared to the success, the historic levels of success the MCU reached. But that's forgetting a lot of them still trying to figure it out early on. Iron Man 2, first Captain America. And this isn't a comment on whether you like the films or not, but just it was a stumble. I had someone say a few years ago, like, hey, don't forget, like, the sales 2012, the first film comes out 2015. They still might be figuring it out. Like, that's not abnormal. That's not abnormal. But the pressure is real. But you said, that pressure, whoever wrote that article you were mentioning, the pressure to be a hit. I would argue that the only surefire, unilateral, across-the-board hit was A New Hope.
Yeah, seriously. Yep.
Money-wise, legacy-wise, of course. But we all know the Starlog letters to the editor in 1980 about Empire Strikes Back ruining Star Wars. We all know about the great Ewok debate in 1983 that you came down on the right side of history on, I will say. And the prequels and the Clone Wars movie. And I mean, this is not – that's sometimes forgotten, not necessarily by the fans in the know, but generally speaking, maybe even in the business insiders too. But I get it. And they have to hit those numbers. They have to hit the shareholders' pocketbooks. And so sometimes Solo, a great example. Yeah, it's financially a struggle, if not a failure. I was with an old friend this weekend. Haven't seen him in a long time. He's a casual to level above casual Star Wars fan, a lifelong, I love Star Wars fan. I don't like this, I don't like that. But he just goes, man, you know what one of my favorite Star Wars films is? Solo. God, I love that film. He's unaware of any of the conversation around it. He's kind of only on Facebook. He doesn't know anything that's going on. I was like, yeah, goddamn right. That's a great film. And he just was like, man, that's just like, I love that. I watched that over and over again. So it's a weird tableau story. Anyways, I like I said, I didn't have any specific questions here. Just wanted to get your feeling on the story itself. But the one thing and the reason I did want to cover this, and sometimes, like I said, I'm trying to remove as much grumpiness and just malaise for Star Wars news stories because number one, it's what we do, and we want you here. You're going to get tired of me, the old man in the beanie, complaining about another Star Wars news story I don't like. I do think this is an important story, though, when you put all the pieces together. A lot of people, Jen, had great theories on that. So we'll take a break here, unless you got any final thoughts on the story itself.
No, I'm excited to dive in this next one.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back right here on ForceCenter. Welcome back to ForceCenter. We're looking at Star Wars news. I am Ken. That is Jen. And Joseph is, of course, out today at the time of this recording, rolling film, digital film probably, rolling the first frames on his film Dead Media. But you can still support the creative process. Go to his website, josephscrimshaw.com, and you'll link from there if you want to help increase the budget. Independent filmmaking is important going forward. It always has been fun and important and needed. But now I think art, homemade art, homespun independent art is going to be important. And you can always help increase the budget during the process of the filmmaking. And that's on Joseph's website. All right, Jen, further speculation. Rey and the future of Star Wars films. There's been a recent string of news. Again, let me summarize, if I may. As we know, Stephen Knight leaves the project after about 18 months. That did include a writer's strike and the strikes in the business, I should say. After 18 months, and it's to lead the Peaky Blind. I always say Pinky because it should be Pinky. Pinky.
I like Pinky Blinders.
Pinky. I always say that. That's his show. He's the showrunner. They're making a movie. He was like, "Here's your scripts. Thanks. I gotta go." Pretty normal too, by the way. Then reports emerge, nothing official, as we always want to say, but reports emerge from legacy trade media there. Simon Kinberg has been tapped to develop a new trilogy. We went into that. Then now, so we got the release date shuffle we just discussed. Boris Kitt, there it is. There's my link in my notes. The Hollywood Reporter did mention this article about Rey being central to the future of Star Wars movies. The one part of the article that I took his point, but he was saying, hey, Lucasfilm has struggled to make characters that connect with people beyond the classics, Han, Leia, Luke, Obi-Wan, and those characters are either dead or have been killed off. I disagree with that a little bit. I think if you're talking about Star Wars films, maybe, and Rey definitely stands tall among that, totally. But Mandalorian and Grogu are just one example of many on the TV side that certainly aren't going to be as powerful as Han, Luke, and Leia, the big three from Star Wars 50 years on.
Right.
Like I said, Kit's article has some snark, but also some hard truths that I don't want to turn away from. What a central report is the supposed big internal debate at Lucasfilm and what is the best way to build the future of Star Wars films. From the article towards the end, adds an insider to make standalone movies or continuing the Skywalker saga in any form is a fundamental question the company faces as it tries to move forward. So the company is facing that big question. Jen, I have one question for this segment, and we can go anywhere we need for as long as we want. What do we think is the best way forward for Star Wars movies? And all these string of news reports that lead us to speculation.
All right. Okay. So here's the thing. The article compared the original trilogy to the Old Testament and said that Lucasfilm is now trying to create the New Testament. And that was really interesting to me because Star Wars does feel like a religion. And, I think the challenge is Star Wars at its core is George Lucas's vision, right? Yeah. And so without George Lucas, unlike Marvel and DC that has, all sorts of different writers and stories for many, many years, I feel like Star Wars is trying to figure out what would be what would George do? Which is why you have Dave Filoni in a high, prominent role. But I don't actually think that Dave Filoni is the closest thing to George Lucas. I kind of think of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni together as kind of closer, maybe. But to me, I'm like, they got to hit the reset button. They are going to have to create this new trilogy, and it's got to be with younger people. I'm sorry, Rey. Maybe Rey can be a part of it, but I think they got to come up with something, start fresh, brand new, get a whole new audience, and build from there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, my big thought on the Kinberg alleged trilogy, and I call it 10, 11, 12, 9.5, call the Rey film 9.5. I care less about the episodes. I don't mind if it goes on and on and on and on. But I continue to look at whatever might be the Kinberg trilogy as far in the future. As 2030s, as Joseph and I said in our episode, we talked about it, that it is, I keep saying, like a soft reboot in the sense of what you're saying, a reset, where it's not a reboot on the canon and the story in the classic sense, but it is introducing Star Wars to a new generation that currently some of them might not even be born. But the interesting thing is, and a lot of people this week put it down and put the string together, connected dots, so to speak, not even in a conspiracy way with the Charlie Day meme from It's Always Sunny, but put it to from the Stephen Knight to the Kinberg to this and that, that maybe there is kind of we got something here. Not necessarily got something with Rey or the film, but just if we're going to build, she would make sense. We have a chance to do this. I always say we didn't have a chance with a string of Star Wars films in the early 90s, right? If George had come back with 7, 8, 9 in 93, 95, 97, we would have had probably Carrie, Mark, maybe Harrison. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
And you would have a chance to keep going or build for a new generation with established stars. You have Rey. You have Daisy. You might have John Boyega. I don't know if you'll ever have Oscar Isaac again, but you could go forward and away. So now that thought of me saying it was a 2030s film, maybe it moves up a little bit, but I still think, to your point, Jen, it serves a purpose to setting something new, getting a chance to to create characters again for a new generation, which is not easy, but could be
No.
needed.
No, I think that they're going to want to go to the original trilogy vibe. That is where I think that they're going to go. And I think that Rey, potentially Finn, could be, like the elders of the group, if you will. Whether they would go like kids, I don't know, or they might go like early 20s. That that could be good, because then they could age up and it's not really an issue, as opposed to if you hire like an 8-year-old, then
Yeah.
well, look at Harry Potter. They could go that route where they want to go like a Harry Potter type of thing, but again, Harry Potter has books that you're going off of, and that is the challenge, because not only are they creating this new franchise, they have to create the Bible. So
Yeah.
like literally the Bible.
The Bible.
This is a movie Bible, if you will, for the future of Star Wars. And that, I don't know. The only thing I can think of that everyone will agree upon is going back to the roots. Family, friendly, fun, not not like Spy Kids or anything like that, but just really going and having it be about the adventure and a little bit of the humor and the wildness and the spirit of the original trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of the I think one of the big things that Force Awakens did right was it had to deal with the complicated legacy of the prequels. We've talked about it before here. I've never heard or seen a mandate company wide, but Star Wars Celebration Anaheim, the prequels weren't present in the ways that would be later on. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying we were even talking about it at the convention. Like, they seem to be distancing themselves a little bit, including, Force Awakens has less politics to its own detriment, I think. So the state of the galaxy is not there. BB-8's practical. Baba Joe's practical. We don't got any of them nasty computers, even though the Phantom Menace had the most practical shots in all of the series at that point. So that it had that, but beyond that, I think Force Awakens did try to do it. Was a soft reboot. Some people felt it was safe. I think even George Lucas himself felt it was safe, including having a big ball that they had to attack at the end with X-wings. And I'm not. I actually don't disagree with that. I had a problem with that early on. Came to like the sequence. Came to love the Starkiller based stuff. But initially, you're like, here we go again.
Right.
There's some bigger themes behind that, but I think it did do that, and it got back to the core of Star Wars. And I don't mean in storytelling core, but I kind of think what you're meaning, Jen, of why we all went to the theaters in '77 and kept going.
And I think the challenge with that is, if JJ had been the one in charge of all three, and it had been like how they were announcing with Simon Kinberg, I think that would have helped. Whether people would have loved, not The Last Jedi, but the second one, I don't know. They may have still panned it and been like, we hate JJ and whatever. But it's just the cohesion, I think, was what people were wanting and they didn't get. I love The Last Jedi. I think that it's too dark of a tone, and for this next iteration, I don't think that they're going to go there. I don't think that they're going to challenge the audience the way that they did with that, or the way that the Acolyte did with that. And I think they're thinking long term. I'm sorry, but like us older people, like, they're not thinking about us. I mean, they don't want to lose us, because we are a big fan base that has a lot of money that we spend on collectibles, right? But they also want to keep their franchise going, so they do have to be open to younger people, and who aren't, like you said, who aren't even born yet.
Yeah, we're talking about a film series that by the third episode, literally, people might not be born who could see it. If it's based on, that time, that fictional timeline that I want to add, I've made in my own brain that is not factual. Joseph and I kept joking 2 weeks ago about 2036. It just seemed like, I don't know, the first one might come around these. But that was with the idea that they were still going to make what has been announced, a New Jedi Order, Dawn of the Jedi, Filoni's film. I'm not even worried about Sean Levy, Lando the film, Taika Waititi the film. This article even said Rogue Squadron still in development. I take that as fact. But I don't believe we'll see that film. So in my brain, I was thinking, all right, cool, we'll get those out of the way, and then you'll have Kinberg. I think, and maybe that's a pitch back to you, Jen. There's some energy behind these collection of news stories in the last week. This is what a lot of people were posting on social media. Of like, you put these all together, you string them all together. It does seem like whatever might come down the line, or might have been thought as down the line with Kinberg, maybe slides up. And maybe there's a way of pulling some of this in, which leads, I will say, and you and I talking off air, I have like a rising fear that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is no longer going to be behind this film, which would be disheartening to me.
It is disheartening. I feel like the momentum has stopped. I don't know why. I mean, look, there's a lot of leaks, a lot of scoops that have been happening. And one that has not been shared is what she's been doing. And
yes,
it just doesn't seem like it's really active. And there seems to be a lot of shuffling with that going on. And it could very well be that they're trying to make it work and maybe it's not working and nobody's reporting that yet. I don't think. I think that they're retooling everything. I think Ray will be in a film. I don't know if she's going to be the lead. I don't know. And I don't think that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy will be helming it.
If I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat a little bit, you touched on one thing that I can't stop thinking about is we haven't heard much from her. Now, again, she's not out promoting movies like Daisy Ridley is, getting the Star Wars questions. But I think I don't even recall her name being mentioned in a lot of the sound bites,
Nope.
And that's a rising fear, just because of, again, directors change all the time. I'm not even tying that to the Star Wars at all, but just the optics of that would the best case scenario is the optics are bad. The worst case is this could be, there's a lot of stuff going on at the high levels of Disney that would lead me to think that they're not going to be less creative in terms of story, but less bold in terms of social and political issues. That have a little fear of that. Not that I think I think Daisy Ridley will hold the line for a lot of things. Yeah. She's pretty outspoken on who she is. But that you're going up against the shareholders, those capital S shareholders and stuff. And that's a lot of stuff at play too. So I have a little rising fear, only to be a little negative on it.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I honestly kind of feel like Mando and Grogu is going to come out, and then I think that the Simon Kinberg thing is going to be what they're going to be focusing on. I don't know if we're going to get all the other stuff, the Lando and the Rogue Squadron. I don't think it's happening. I don't. I'll prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Donald Glover, because I love you and I think you're a genius. But I just feel like they want to have a vision. They want to know where they're going. They don't want to repeat the mistakes that they've done in the past that everyone's accusing them of, although I love all their quote unquote missteps. I think that they want to have a clear vision moving forward. Yeah. And they want to have so I don't know, with Simon Kinberg, he wouldn't direct it, right? He would direct it?
No, I don't know. That was, again, because nothing's been officially confirmed. It was just, he's got writing, producing, directing skills. I think he's more there for the development, producing side and the writing side. Again, it's not a, I think he's got some trust within Lucasfilm. He stepped aside for reasons we don't know, in the sense of, he had Dark Phoenix and stuff he wanted to do, which was not well received. But you have to look at someone's complete IMDb resume. And also, we do this thing, all of it, we look down the line of what they made, and if something's bad, we go, oh, that could have been myriad reasons why the film didn't work. That had nothing to do with him. But he worked so closely. He's so trusted by Carrie Beck and Dave Filoni, who at the time were just, lowly animation employees at Lucasfilm Disney. Now they have some different titles. And I think, we've definitely, I don't even think it's a we have to get this right. I think we have to, but just like maybe they want to. This is a change in leadership. Filoni and Carrie Beck were a change in leadership from a certain point of view, and a new coach shows up, same team. We got the owners in the owner's box. We got the vice president, but I'm the coach here on the field, and I want to build the playbook going forward. I'm not surprised that they probably made a case even for changing things up. Though I would think the Ray movie, the Mangold film, and the Filoni film are part of that. But I could see a lot of that, like you said, Jen, the Kinberg stuff slides up, and then everything else just kind of scatters. And until, to quote Seymour Skinner, prove me wrong, children, prove me wrong. I don't think the Landa film, the Rogue Squadron. I'm not even. It's not even a blip on my anticipation meter right now.
You know what? You're so right about the coach analogy. I watched the LA Chargers
Yes.
Cincinnati Bengals game yesterday, and my husband told me that the Chargers got the Michigan coach or something, and because I was like, wow, they're playing so well. He's like, yeah, they got a new coach,
Harbaugh, yeah.
and I was like, oh, I see why that's important. And I think the same thing could be applied here. Yes, Kathleen Kennedy is obviously
Still the vice president, I should say.
She's still there.
President, but in terms of the sports thing, I'm thinking owner, vice president of player operations, GM, coach.
Exactly. And so you're right, is that they do have new coaches. And I think let's let those coaches do what they do and recruit. I've run out of sports analogy.
We'll find some more. But again, and I said this, I think it was on the Joseph episode, so I'm repeating some stuff because you were here last week. Joseph wasn't. Joseph was here the week before. So my mind scrunches everything into one. But I'll repeat the thing of being at a party in 2014, Force Awakens not yet out, but the trailer was definitely out, and Simon Kinberg's at the party, and a friend leans over to me and points at him and goes, "That's the guy that's going to lead Star Wars going forward, story-wise." And that was I want to say inside information like scoop, but just it was the talk going around the town. And he said he was at a table, and then a couple key part of Rebels. He's not just an executive producer that took some meetings, helped with some the pitch Bible, and took a credit. He was involved in and out the 4 seasons of that program. Twilight of the Apprentice, I think, is a co-writing credit. Like, he was involved, and that was Filoni and Carrie Beck. So whatever reason it didn't happen, again, I think he has some trust with Lucasfilm. He has a producer mind, a producer skill set. I think if you're coming along, and there's meetings of what is working. It's not abnormal to have all of these things on the wall of what we might do, and there's more pitches daily. They haven't stopped taking pitches on projects or even TV shows. But it's been about what has it been? About a year or so since Filoni and Carrie Beck got promoted? Yeah,
about a year. But you know what? Rebels and Clone Wars are like the biggest things in terms of like the new, new Star Wars. So if they could replicate that for a live action and new trilogy, now we're talking.
Yeah, look, one of the things I have been more recently openly critical on some of Dave Filoni's script writing, directing, and just the nuts and bolts of how he put Star Wars together. But I'll listen to that man talk about Star Wars for hours, and I think one of the strengths of Clone Wars it was a team. George was still involved, as we know. The idea that remember early on the Clone Wars thing was like, George isn't really there. The guy was in every meeting. George had
footage.
He had the meeting flannel on all the time.
Yeah.
He was in charge. The stories are legends. But Henry Gilroy, there was a lot of people around Dave. And Dave, I've been around Dave once drunk at a party and a couple times at press events. I don't know the dude at all. I want to make that clear. I know people that do. I know people that have known him for 20 years. I don't think he'd be the one who would tell people, I'm the one that did it all. He does not have that approach. He's very confident in what he knows, and will sometimes his word is the last word. But Clone Wars was a team effort. Rebels was a team effort. He's just the face of it in a lot of ways. I think a great example for me is my favorite Star Wars Disney Plus show, which is The Bad Batch. That's Jennifer Corbett and Brad Rao with Dave sitting down with them at one point and not being involved probably on a day-to-day basis, but still having an overall, here's what we got to do, here's the story we got to tell. You combine that with Carrie Beck's producing skills and Simon Kinberg's track record with putting together big-budget, successful films, that actually has me excited, even to the point of if they shuffle things around and there's a little egg on the face, a little of we did it again, we announced Summit Celebration, that's not going to happen. If the end result is a new era of films that are not I'm not leaning into they needed a plan or cohesive is not incorrect, but you know what I mean? I'm just excited that this new team maybe has in place what they want to do.
Okay, now I'm excited. That is really yes. This is what we need. This is what we want. I think it will unite the fan base, I hope. I mean, there'll still be, the grifters and whatever, but this gives me hope. The
first part of this episode is me knowing that those folks are going to have a field day and already having a field day with a lot of red eyes and arrows on thumbnails. Let them have that. Let them eat cake. All right? Let them do it. I don't care. I'm still rooting for this team, and I've heard other people use the analogy of love the team, want to change the leadership. It's done with in some cases bad faith. There's some people I know that I think it's just an actual good faith reading of the situation. But Kathleen's not going anywhere, and I don't think she should go anywhere. Because for every bad decision some people think she's made 3 great ones, right? Like it's always fun of she's ruining Star Wars. God, and why can't it all be like Andor, the show she greenlit and gave Tony Gilroy the carte blanche bunch to do what the hell he wants? You know, give her some credit there. So, anyways, exhausted of the Kathleen Kennedy conversations after 10 years of having it, but I am excited. Of we are Jed, we are almost 10 years out from Force Awakens. This is a new era.
I can't believe it. I really can't. I mean, and Kathleen Kennedy, please look at her IMDb. If you have any worry, look at her IMDb and what she has worked on. Come on, people, let's get real here.
Yeah.
No, I'm optimistic. I think it's okay. I'm not panicking, calming myself down. This is just part of the movie business. There's going to be some things, and they're going to get it right. And if we have to wait a little bit longer, it's okay. It's okay, because I think that they have learned from their things that have happened in the past, and I think that they're currently retooling in a good way.
Retool, gathering. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to sports because I've been a sports fan all my life, most of my life. I about 10 years old. I started. I had a lightsaber in one hand and then a Nerf football in the other one and a baseball bat on my bed. Like I've been a sports fan, and I always say that for good reason, the sports and nerd worlds have always been divided because the 80s did that to us. And there's been a lot of scarring from the jock side. I totally get it. Not to turn this into a John Hughes film, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We're rooting for heroes that will never really get to be unless you cosplay. I will never be Derek Jeter or Luke Skywalker or Han Solo. It's the same muscle. You're rooting for fictitious heroes, just some of them happen to be real human beings. But I think there's valuable lessons to learn from sports. And the idea of a regime change, a playbook change, a different direction, a player change is not always a bad thing and often leads to bigger success. So as a Miami Dolphin fan, I've been waiting for that change for about 25 years. And I'm still waiting, kind of. Maybe. We'll see. The Rams change. The Chargers change. So there you go, Jen. Your LA teams that you apparently are rooting for are showing us the Star Wars way.
That's right. Who knew I could be a football fan? There's actually a neuron that I learned about. Supposedly there's a mirror, I think it's called a mirror neuron, where when you're watching something, it makes you feel like you're really doing it. So whether it's watching, someone hit a home run or watching Rey and Kylo Ren with their lightsabers, battling, it's like it makes us feel like we are doing it. And so makes me feel like I'm a kid again.
There you go. When you're talking sports, did the Yankees win or lose? It's we won or lost. I've never been on the field, but it definitely feels like it. So we are on the field of love and Star Wars. Jen, I don't have any final thoughts on this other than just breaking it down, looking at the future. And the end result, I don't know all the details. None of us know all the details. This is rampant, wild speculation, putting news stories together in a line to see if it makes any sense. But I, for one, am open to a future where we have a new vision of films, even if it, I hate to say it, steps on some of the ones already in place, but we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, too. I'm hopeful. And that's all we can do in Star Wars is be hopeful. All right. That's right. That's our look at news this week. We're out of here. Oh, a lot of fun. A lot of fun, Jen. Just going freely into the news here today to, break down movie news stories I'm sometimes exhausted about talking about. It was a good running play. Is that what you say? Yeah, we ran a good play. We ran a good play. We called an audible at the line of scrimmage. Omaha, Omaha, Omaha. All right. Hey, we are ForceCenter. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. We are on Blue Sky. Blue Sky exploding over the last couple weeks. Finally, and it's proven to be a lot of fun and a good place to be for a lot of reasons, but ForceCenter is there. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. Find us at other social media spots if you want, including Instagram. Podcast is available in a lot of spots. We are a podcast at heart. Check it out. Just search and find us. Merch available 2 spots, tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter and Fourth Wall on YouTube. You can link below. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, subscribe if you're new. Like this video. Do all those wonderful algorithm breaking things. But also, one thing I've started doing last week, and Right now, it's just been my face, but it's not always going to be. It could be all of us at once. It could be Jen or Joseph. I am going live on YouTube on their new vertical live option. Not unlike going live on Instagram or even TikTok, but it's there on YouTube. I'm having fun. I just set up my little phone tripod here, do some work, answer some questions, talk about things, preview upcoming ForceCenter episodes, and you only really get to see those on the fly because I don't really announce them. It's when I just am done eating lunch and let's go live. Subscribe and hit that notification bell here on YouTube. You can support us directly on Patreon at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Follow me at Ken Napzok, especially on Blue Sky, where I'm having more fun on social media than I've had since like 2011, Jen. It's been a lot of fun. So where can they find you?
I love Blue Sky. It is a lot of fun. It's like the old Bird app back in the day. You can find me on there at Jennifer Landa, Instagram at Jennifer Landa. I'm also making some silly memes which will be on my Jennifer Landa Instagram and at Collectible Chaos, and TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go. That is it. We will see you. Don't forget to go to Joseph's website, josephgrimshaw.com, to find out how you can support his film. That is in action today. All right, my mom's calling me. We gotta go. See you next time here on ForceCenter. Mom, I'm on ForceCenter.